This is the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and hitting subscribe on your friend's phone without them knowing. Coming to you from the lucky 4th floor at the Kitchen Studios in downtown Raleigh. This episode is sponsored in part by Blue Shark Vodka. All the taste without the bite. Blue Shark Vodka coming out of Wilmington, North Carolina. And Joe Van Gogh Coffee, serving the community from seed to cup, taking particular care at every step to honor the bean. And now, faking it for nearly 5 years, it's Max Trujillo and Matthew Weiss.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And grab an ear share of the Produce Project with their founder, the everything man for them, Mr. Mike Shumake.
Well, I don't know about everything, man. I certainly don't do it by myself, but I appreciate the segue. That was nice.
Well, to us, you're everything man.
I certainly have the story. How about that?
Yes, you do.
Yeah, well, we hope, or else this is going to be a boring episode.
I've been there from the beginning. How about that?
Yeah.
Well, somebody said that we should ply you with coffee, and you won't stop telling the story.
No,
so.
it's when you get me going with coffee, it gets brutal. It gets brutal.
Well, wait for that Joe Van Gogh segment in a few minutes. We'll see if the audience notices any speed up on your voice. We'll go from there. Once you get him started. So I love the idea of like how we all know each other and how you got put into this seat over here, Matt. I don't know if you know how Mike connected with us, but it all has to do with bad driving.
I love how honest this is about to get, man. This is great.
Yeah. And it's good because it puts my wife in the worst, part of the story, which is always really fun for me to do. Exploit her in those ways.
Yeah.
The aforementioned wife got a speeding ticket. With the speeding ticket, she, long story short, thought that she was just going to pay the fee, but instead the judge, who was not having a good day, told her she had to do community service, and not just a few hours.
That was kind of you, but I feel like we just need to call the judge out for being the most brutally terrible, mean person ever.
I love judges, and I support everything that they do.
She was cruel.
Felicia was going somewhat over 20 miles per hour over the speed limit. I mean,
it may have been a school zone. Who knows? Who knows? But from the story I heard from Felicia was the judge was cruel, and
they can both be true.
I was about to say we can hold both ideas in our head at the same time.
So she took to the social media as she does, and was like, "Hey, everybody, I need to figure out how to do some community service." So lo and behold, through the community, which was really great, everybody responded with so many particular things that you could do if one was looking to do some community service, both out of the kindness of your heart or court mandated.
Yeah.
You could find a lot of things that you could do. And so Felicia was connected with the Produce Box because you are a 501, was connected with the Produce Project because you are a 501c3 nonprofit organization and could help people that need some hours, but also could benefit from just the community helping out in your business. I would like to know, what is your business?
Well, the Produce Project, like you said, it was 501c3 nonprofit. You're not the first person to have made the small faux pas of saying box. We actually call our shares. They do come in little crates, but we call them shares because everybody who buys a share puts their money into like a big pot. Then I go to the farmer's market and I use that big pot of money to buy everything in bulk and wholesale. Now, for bulk and wholesale, I bring it back. Volunteers sort of descend on it, right? And then it's divided up equally into individual shares of the large pot. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So
this isn't like Bitcoin share.
It's much less complicated. I would say I've worked really hard to keep the Produce Project as simple as a lemonade stand.
You're not doing like farm mining.
There's very, very little complexity going on here. Good. And it's almost going to be difficult for me to continue talking, much more than, a few minutes because of its simplicity. But hey, that's cool. There's no secrets here, right? 501c3 world, we try to stay pretty transparent. When the volunteers show up at about 11:30 in the morning, it only takes about an hour. I like to hang out take my time, chat with people, do shots of tequila with the volunteers. We don't do that anymore, right? Because
you just got way more volunteers.
Yeah, I know, right? Like it's a lot of fun, right? 11:30 in the morning, shots of tequila. However, we don't do that anymore because the new group of volunteers we have, they're like these super hardworking people who show up during their lunch hour, and I'm like, "Well, y'all relax. Would you, just slow down a little bit?" And they're like, bumping me out of their way. Like, "Would you get out of the way? We got shares to make." And I'm like, "All right, guys, you're awesome. This is fantastic. Let me just go make cookies and jam and things for you guys and bring them and make sure the snacks are good." But it takes about an hour. We make the shares, set them up on the shelves. Now, people buy the shares ahead of time on the website, and that's the secret sauce of the Produce Project, because you got to compare what we're doing to the grocery store, the way that most people get their produce, right? So what a grocery store does is they go, "All right, cool, I'll take a pallet of I don't know, broccoli," right? And then they sit in the back of the store, and now the game for them is to charge enough to try to sell it before it goes bad in the back of the store. Mm-hmm. And what you're actually paying for is not only the broccoli you're buying, but the broccoli that's going bad in the back of the store at the same time.
Yeah.
I think that's dumb, right? Instead, I sell the shares ahead of time, right? I know exactly how much to buy. I know exactly how much to spend with the money that we get for the shares. There's no produce going bad. We buy it fresh in bulk and wholesale from the farmer's market the morning of pickup. The volunteers have it ready to go, and if people start picking it up, the customers start picking it up between 3 and 8 p.m. on pickup days. It's Wednesdays and Thursdays. We're on Capitol Boulevard by Crabtree Boulevard. People show up between 3 and 8 to pick up their shares. And what we do at the Produce Project is better. Is because instead of paying for the stuff that goes bad in the back of the grocery store, we put it in your share. So that means you get 3 times your money that you would get at the grocery store in your share at the Produce Project. So you're spending $18 on a share, right? You're getting $50 to $60 for the produce at the grocery store. Okay, it's probably too much to eat.
I was going to say, that's a lot of vegetables.
It is, right? It is. Right. But it's all bought fresh. Part of the model, and the reason we're a 501c3, I'm trying to do good in the community, right, is you get your crate down from the shelf, this heavy, gigantic box of produce. It's huge, right? And you bring your own bags and your own boxes, right? You bring your own containers to take it home in. But now the process is you pull it out of the crate and you put it in your own bag. Now that's intentional. I don't want to give away all my crates because I would run out and that would suck. But 2, and this is really the reason we do it like this, is that you have to think about what you're putting in your bags and your boxes. And in that process, you're thinking, all right, cool, how much can I use? How much do I want? Do I want this? Do I want this? And what you don't, you put in the back shelf. And what goes on the shelf is sort of the metaphor that we use. When it goes on the wall, that's the donation wall. And it's a shelf, floor to ceiling, and it's packed with produce. 2 pickup days, Wednesdays and Thursday. By the end of the day on Thursday, that wall's probably got 1,000 pounds of fresh produce, usually, that we turn around and we donate fresh to hungry families in Raleigh that day on Friday.
Okay, so 2 things. If I own a share, I come between 3 and 8 on pickup days. I bring my bags. I get to pick out of the crate, but there's always there's a set amount, right? Like I can't take more than the next person. I just take what I want, and then what I don't use, I put back on the wall.
That is correct.
Okay. But it's your box. It's what you paid for. So
oh, I see. So
it's
you
not
have
like
your
a communal box.
That makes
it's
sense.
like this is for the Weiss family. You can take it all if you want. Right?
That's correct. That's correct. We call them shares because we don't want to get confused with other companies.
Sure.
Right.
Shares. So is Mike looking over your shoulder the whole time with a judging eye, going,
"You don't really need that.
You need 7 eggplants. What are you going to do with all those eggplants?"
Right. What are you making? Eggplant juice?
So that's a funny question, man. And what I find is,
because by the way, before you say that, Mike is a large man. Mike could have played left tackle for the Carolina Panthers. Maybe even today. Maybe they could use him. Cam Newton could use that help. But you come in and you're like, who's this huge man that's intimidating me?
Over my shoulder.
Vegetables, I swear I will.
I used to get the question, do you play football or do you play basketball? Well, when I was skinny, it was, do you play basketball? Right. And it was, do you play football? And now it's like, did you play football? Right. And I'm like, God, dude, I didn't expect that to hurt so much, right?
Yeah.
But
did you play football?
Did you play football? No. I was like Ferdinand the Bull. I was reading books in the back of the field with the flowers and things.
Vegetables.
Like I became an English teacher. So I guess it turned out okay.
Yeah.
I had a lady one time at Fuquay. I was going to see my dad and was on my way back from from Fuquay, and I stopped at a fast food restaurants, and people, when you're tall, when you're as big as I am, people, they find it sort of like, public domain, right? This
like I can touch
yeah,
you,
like it's like you're pregnant and you're a woman. People are like,
I was just gonna say,
people ask you like as if you've done something offensive. How tall are you? And I'm like, bro.
Yeah.
And this lady asked me, this older lady.
How old are you, old lady?
Like that would be inappropriate, right? But no problem at all asking me if if I played sports, and I said no. I said no sports, and she goes what a waste. And I went. I guess I was.
Your life means nothing,
dude. I was having a bad day, and
just
I went
taking up space.
I went, lady. I work with at-risk youth in alternative schools for 10 years. I feed hungry families in the community in Raleigh every week with a nonprofit. And you think I wasted my life because I didn't play football? Like I was, I just lost it.
You gave him a forearm shiver, and she knocked herself to the ground.
I really feel like that would have gone too far.
I love that.
What was her reaction to that?
I mean, that was the end of our engagement, right? Like
she didn't even say, she didn't have a response.
She really did not have much of a response because at that point I turned on my heel and huffed away.
Okay.
I was.
I was just like, after I made a statement like that, I would have just like stared at her and been like, so what do you have to say now?
What do you have to say for yourself, lady? I think the statement made. I think I made the point. And she probably was not being unkind. She was probably like, what a waste. Gosh, look at how big you are. And she probably didn't mean it as an insult. Of course, people don't always think about what they say before they say it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's just like
what a waste.
Like what a waste.
That's pretty clear cut insult. There's no need to figure out what she meant there. There's no underlying.
It's like when you walk into a pregnant girl and you put your hand on her belly and you go, so big, right?
And then she's like, I'm not pregnant.
Oh man, that's never commit out there. For those of you that don't know,
do it.
Even if you think it's obvious,
don't do it.
Still don't say anything until they say something.
PSA for pregnant women: please announce in the room when you walk in, I'm pregnant. Just get it out. Just get it rip that Band-Aid off. It's on you, not on us.
I'm said woman and I'm pregnant. It's like an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, like I'm Matt and I'm alcoholic.
You may touch my belly now. Right?
Yeah, well, no, they still don't want that.
No, they don't. They don't want
None
that.
of the touching.
No, okay.
So going back to the prying eyes and hands of Mike Shumake while we're getting the produce box, what's going on here?
So here's what I found. Right, is first of all, there's two ways to get the produce. There's subscribers who get it every week or every other week, and then there's people who just buy it, as they want it. Right. So the for-profit companies all want you to subscribe. They all want you to subscribe, and they want to upsell you. That's not really my game, right? I'm here to help. I'm here to help people, right? I retired. I don't even get paid from the produce project, right? I'm not out, to sort of, suck anyone dry, right? So you can subscribe, or you can just buy one-off shares. Now, the first time subscribers show up, right, I give them the spiel. All right, dude, you got to pull the crate down, you unload the stuff, and you put it up on the donation, and you take whatever you want. And they always take it. They take the whole thing, right? Because they're like, holy cow. I'm sorry, I got to watch my language on the podcast.
You can say whatever you want.
Do you look at their bags when they take the whole thing and say, what a waste?
I would never do that. But I am judgmental. But I am judgmental because I look at them and I just smile and shake my head. I'm like, all right, cool, enjoy.
Yeah.
Because I know the next time they come back that they're going to have a complaint that it was too much. And I'm like, that's not how this works. You can't complain that it's too much. What you did was you took too much. That's your fault, right? Like you're doing it wrong. And so, but then after the first couple times, they figure out how much to take, like how much their individual family needs and how much produce that they eat, and they get it. As long as it's not
there for a second, because there is an inherent issue. Another PSA. There's a lot today of like just listening, and we all struggle for it. I'm guilty of it too, but like because they're sitting there, they're listening to what you're saying, but they're not hearing what you're saying. They're just thinking, oh, I got all this produce, I got to get it all. Like,
well, I would say to that point, and it's. To not like badger the person that's doing this, because I know where I would be in this situation. If I saw this huge box that might have, say, 30 pounds of vegetables, it's not that I didn't need it all. It's that now I feel a challenge. Now I'm like, I'm going to make oh, there's so many vegetable dishes I could do. I'm going to do a ratatouille. I'm going to preserve this. I'm going to pickle that. I'm going to jam that. I'm going to do all this. And you'd end up not doing any of it, and you let a bunch of it go to waste, and then you come back to reality the second week.
But that,
Right.
but that also
Because-
proves my point is that you're already in your head thinking about what am I going to do with it?
Right.
Not listening to anything he's saying about like, hey, put this back. It's like when I go and do my like an in-store wine tasting I'll be like, oh, and so tonight, I'll introduce, we're tasting all South African wines, and people are like, oh, cool. They're tasting the wine. Oh, this is good. This is good. Where's this from?
Yeah.
All right, I'll
Well,
step down from my soapbox now.
I would also say that not everybody's going to approach a giant share of produce, with the same, enthusiasm and creativity that you would. A lot of people,
I'm special.
Well, I mean, you have a lot of experience in the food and beverage world, and I think that a lot of people are like, what the hell is this? Like we had rambutans in the share last week, which I just thought were cool,
Felicia
right?
went after she saw them because she was sorting them. She went to Trader Joe's and they were sold there too. For someone that doesn't know what a rambutan is, describe it.
Oh, you're gonna okay, all right.
Or I can describe.
It looks like a large gumball, little hairier, and it's red.
yeah.
It's very hairy, long,
Yeah.
inch and a half long hairs.
Right, but like a gumball,
Yeah.
and then what you do is you peel off the outer hairy skin, and then you pop it in your mouth and you eat the fruit on the inside, which is kind of like a skinless grape.
I was going to say it tastes very similar to a grape. Yeah,
And
I think more like a lychee.
well, but nobody knows what lychee is, and you
Right.
told me to
People
describe
know
it.
but
lychee.
it doesn't have the same acidity as a lychee would have. It's yeah. You could juice a rambutan. In fact, maybe we'll try to do that. Make a cocktail out of it or something.
Well, but then you got to
gotta
spit
get
the
a lot
nut
of
out.
them, yeah.
So
Well, that's what. Yeah.
There's a little pit in the middle.
yep,
Pretty
little
big pit.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's a 3-step process, but one of my favorite things is finding stuff like that, and hanging out during pickup, and watching the kids pick up produce they've never seen before.
Right.
Because especially for you guys, you don't get to try new stuff very often.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wait, why don't we get to try new
because
stuff?
because of your backgrounds, you guys
Because
in particular
nothing's new.
have tried everything before.
Oh,
Because
okay.
we're so experienced.
I see. I see. Got you.
Well, that's been your job.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, man.
Yeah, that was a new experience for me. I was like, oh, this is cool. And it tasted far better than I expected because at that same time, Felicia also got some star fruit, dragon fruit, and then another type of dragon fruit. It was all I know is it was $6 for one fruit. I'm like, what the heck is
That
going
was
on
not
here?
from the produce project.
No. She bought this stuff. I don't know why she didn't just take
Go
it
to the produce
project, but she got it at Trader Joe's or whatever. And so, but we went through it all. And we sampled them, and then my daughter, she's like, "Dad, will you help me turn this into like a fancy drink? Because I'll do a little."
Mocktail.
Put it down, make a mocktail. Yeah, we'll do things like that. But after they tried the weird dragon fruit, they're like, "This is disgusting. I don't want anything to do with this." Which I thought dragon fruit's delicious. It's kind of kiwi-esque.
Well, when with kids, you got to sell them on it. You got to sell them on new stuff.
Yeah. That's
Elizabeth, you're shaking your head like it's not good.
It tastes like air.
It tastes like air. Yeah, if you're
tastes like air.
yeah,
Maybe that's
flavored
something
air.
we could convince the kids with. Guys, it just tastes like air. It's fine.
Yeah.
I want to get back to that moment when I paused and you were talking about the person sees the produce project and they think, or what they're thinking. You were about to say, if you can bring us back. But in the meantime, where you're describing that, maybe we could have a little coffee break.
Yeah, let's pour some coffee. And while we're drinking the coffee or getting ready to drink the coffee, let's talk a little bit about Blue Shark Vodka, which is a handcrafted vodka company coming out of Wilmington. We love Blue Shark Vodka for its fragrance, its palate, its character, all of it, because it's refined and smooth enough to drink on the rocks. It's got that mash build with sweet Carolina gluten-free corn. It's a delicious drink. Dale DeGroff, who is the king of cocktails, put his stamp on it and actually featured Blue Shark Vodka in his most recent cocktail book, which, that speaks volumes right there. You're not just going to go out and say, oh, this is my favorite vodka, because whatever. He can say that about anybody.
Yeah.
He chose to say it about Blue Shark.
Validation.
And that's what I was thinking. You could take some delicious rambutan. Am I saying it right?
Rambutan.
Or the passion fruit, or, heck, on top of it, Mike, you brought an assortment of things that we'll have to get to in a little bit.
Sweet.
We've got some pico de gallo. We've got what are the
Habanero strawberry jam.
yeah, you pickled some English cucumbers. You've got a whole bunch of stuff going on here. But we also we've got this coffee to discuss, and this one's really delicious.
What are we drinking today? Because this is really, touching my taste palates.
Well, what we're drinking comes from Joe Van Gogh, of course, but this one, we're out there in Guatemala. The particular, let's see if I can say this right. It's from Pixcaya, Guatemala, Pixcaya. I don't know. How would you say it, people? It's spelled Pixcaya. So, Pixcaya.
I also have to say, I think, hands down, thank you to Elizabeth, our helper on the show. The coffee game has just been even elevated more.
Yeah.
I think you're the best brewer.
You make it with
Barista.
love. Yeah. This coffee, which has grown 1,889 meters above the sea level, is in the beautiful hills of San Juan Zacatepeques. Yeah, you got it. In the Sierra Madres on the farm Concepcion Pixcaya. They've roasted this coffee to bring out the rich flavors, grilled peach, the silky caramel, the creamy nuttiness, and marzipan. Concepcion Pixcaya is the fourth-generation family farm that is now being overseen by the great-great-great-grandson Miguel Zahi Miron and his mother Maria Cristina Miron de Zahi. Wow. This high altitude and cool weather make it ideal to grow coffee, macadamia nuts, and pines. So there are no herbicides used in this coffee. The farm practices sustainable agriculture. This coffee is handpicked through a washed process where it ferments in the tank for 24 to 46 hours, and then it is washed and sun-dried out on the patios. How about that? This is delicious.
I mean, the stories behind the Joe Van Gogh coffee are just like that. In itself, awesome.
Yeah, so go check them out. Go to joevangogh.com for more information about the coffee. You can get them at all of their locations all throughout the Triangle, whether you're in Hillsborough, Durham, Raleigh. joevangogh.com.
You know, man, I'm kind of an amateur coffee drinker.
Yeah.
There's no sugar or anything in this. It's delicious.
No.
Right, it's just pure.
I'm impressed, man.
Yeah. Okay, so we're getting back to that moment about when the first timers come pick up their box, their share.
So thank you. I appreciate that. The subscriber or the first timer will pick it up, and usually once they come the first time, they'll come back, right?
Yeah.
But it's the first time they always take the whole thing, and because Max is right, they have this reaction of like, holy cow, all of this, and everybody. You can see pictures all day, right? But when you get there and you see it topping this giant moving box, right? And it's this big crate full of fresh produce. It's beautiful. It's colorful. There's none of this dumpster diving or buying seconds or buying stuff that the grocery stores are throwing away. We don't do any of that. Mm-hmm. We buy bulk and wholesale, retail. We buy it fresh in the morning. Exactly. It's not pre-owned. It has not been bought before.
Right.
We're not into margins and profits apparently.
And then you just donate, like whatever you don't want, you leave on the shelf, and then you can give that to whomever. And
now the people who are going to listen to this, because you're all of a sudden going to have the NC F&amp.
That'd be
and
great.
Now you're going to have,
that'd
millions.
Be awesome. Oh, sweet.
Walking
they'll be coming
in.
by the tens.
Oh
Yeah.
man, dude, boy, that's exciting. Well, I would love for people to come try it because when you try it, it blows your mind how much you get for $18. Now, there's 2 points there to be made. One, yes, there's a learning experience. That you have to figure out how much you'll use. Right. B, you got to change the way you eat. If you continue buying frozen food and Stouffer's, lasagna and the same stuff you've always bought from the grocery store, and then you also add this giant crate of fresh produce to your fridge, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to use it.
Waste.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not going to use it.
Yeah.
So if you want to start slow, that's fine. The only barrier should be the price point, not the fact that it's too much. If it's too much, then you're just the person who's not willing to help others, right? Like
you're what we call the lesson here is don't be a chazer. And what's a chazer?
I have no idea.
It's a Yiddish word, and if anybody here has ever seen Scarface, it's a pig that don't fly straight no more. But it's somebody who takes more than they need.
Right.
All I say at home is take what you want, but eat what you take. And
Right on.
I mean, that's like the old military way, but like I do this. My oldest daughter, Alexander, is notorious for just like piling on whatever we have that we're all trying to share and eat. Just like tons of mac and cheese or tons of sauce or meat or whatever. And then like there's hardly any left for anybody else. And then at the end, she's like, I don't really want any more on my plate. Dad, do you want this? I'm like, Yeah, I wanted it when it was hot
Yeah.
in the communal bowl that we all had it there, but not now. It's been pushed around and touched by you. Gross.
So don't be a Hazer or an Alexandra.
Alexandra, yeah.
Right. However, you also have to you can't get frustrated with them either because it's a learning experience.
Right.
It's a learning process, and it takes them a couple shares for them to go. Okay, look, there's going to be more the next week.
Yeah.
Right. There's no need to save it. There's no need to try to overdo the amount of time in the kitchen with pickling and preparing and jarring and canning because it's coming back the next week, and you're going to drown in it. Right.
Yeah.
Unless
Just be
you have a
patient.
family of 6, you're probably not going to use the entire share, or unless you're a vegetarian.
Well,
Holy cow!
Could we
Boy.
get like a free T-shirt if we do use and eat all of the vegetables? Because like I would,
Yeah,
be
I
like,
wanna be
challenge
incentivized,
me.
yeah.
Because that's so. The reason I kid around about that is I was looking at your bio and it was something kind of struck me. We'll get into the teaching credit at some point, but it said that you created the idea while you were buying bulk products for your family of 2. And how many veggies did you and your
All right.
family consume to where you, a family of 2,
That's right, man. No kids.
need to buy bulk vegetables? I mean, we know you're a big guy, but that's a lot.
So there's an explanation here. My wife, the sweetest lady in the world. You got to say that, by the way.
Matt didn't say that.
Your wife is the sweetest lady.
My wife is definitely the sweetest lady in the world. She's tiny and terrifying, but she's also allergic to gluten and she's allergic to corn. So corn syrup, corn starch. There's basically nothing in the middle of
Shark
the
vodka.
No, yeah, the corn. You can't use the corn. I know
How does
it's
she
a
ever have a
heartbreak.
tortilla?
She can't have tortillas, brother.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's awful. She everything she eats, I make basically from scratch.
Okay.
I guess my grandmother's grandson, like the Depression era grandmother, right? I go to the farmer's market and discover the wholesale building, right? And this guy's got a case of tomatoes for like $12, and I'm like, what is this magic, right? Like, what? Oh my God, you can get all these tomatoes for $12? It's insane. It's like a farmer right down the street. They're beautiful. They're red. So I get home and I'm like, nobody needs 80 tomatoes, right? Like it is completely
But you
unnecessary.
didn't realize that at the
Not
time.
at the time. At the time, I'm
You
so
bought it.
excited.
Yeah.
You know what I am? I'm the guy who
You're
first
your
started.
guy.
I'm that guy.
Yeah.
I'm that guy at the
I like
I'm the subscriber. What I'm saying
full
is,
circle,
it's
yeah.
a learning process. It happens to everybody. It was
Right.
me too. So, what do? I
That's
go.
what I was going for. I got my
Dude,
satisfaction.
there was some
Yeah.
poetry there. I think it went well. So I get home and I'm like, all right, what am I going to do with 80 tomatoes in this case of tomatoes? They're all they're going bad right now, and now I'm frantic about like not wasting the money in the tomatoes with
Yeah.
my grandmother's grandson. And
as everybody knows, you can't really refrigerate tomatoes.
no,
They just-
dude, I go to Facebook, right, and I put it on social media. I'm like, all right, I need 10 people, and everybody throws in $10, and the next week, because these are already gone, like I wasted this entire case of tomatoes. I'm like, depressed for the week. It's terrible. Okay, it wasn't that bad, but the
It makes the story better.
yeah, right. It's just got to be some drama. Got to be some drama.
You're
So the
sulking.
next week, like I get 10 people throw in $10, and I go and I get 10 different things, and I was like, okay, 8 tomatoes is cool, right? It's still a lot of damn tomatoes, right? But it's more doable than 80 tomatoes, right? And I was like, dude, this is brilliant. I'm gonna side rail for a second and explain why it's brilliant, right? But I'm generally not a very humble person, so it's really on.
It's fine.
It's in character for me. I was a consultant in an education consultant. Ed tech was my area, and I'm working in a charter school in Rocky Mount. I'm working at school one day, and there's an entrepreneurship teacher, and she's teaching a curriculum that kind of comes out of a box, right? She walks up to me in the hallway and she goes, Mr. Shumake, I like teaching this class, but I sure would like to do something a little more hands-on, a little more real. This out-of-the-box curriculum stuff. She's like, it's kind of boring as a teacher. Well, this is about the time I'd figured out how I could split, 10 people's $10 and buy in bulk and and give people this phenomenal amount. I mean, it wasn't just 8 tomatoes; it was 8 tomatoes and 8 eggplants and rambutan. Like there was so much food, it was insane, right? And I'm like, for $10, these people are getting an insane amount of food. Well, then I was like, well, if it was 15, then I could get there'd be like 10 different or 15 or 20 different items, right? And I could, so I learned to adjust. And I'm like, wait a minute, what if the school did this, right? What if the school itself, right, sold subscriptions to produce. The kids themselves would learn how to start a real business, right? You talk about learning marketing, real world writing. I can't say that. It's about relevance in education.
Customer
right?
service, all that. Yeah.
Customer service, logistics, right? Profit, except not in money, profit as pounds of produce as your metric. Make sense? Which you then, the students then translate and go, all right, cool. So X number of dollars per pound means this is a way that this is an example of a small business, how you start, bootstrapping something to serve your community, right? And there's no way that something like Amazon could compete with this, But it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be vegetables. It's the concept of serving your community, starting a business, and the business is whatever your passion is. What a great learning experience that could be, right?
Yeah.
And so I got super excited about it, and I was like, okay, we need a proof of concept, right? And the Produce Project was born.
Are you still in the education field as well?
I do a little contracting, a little contract consulting work occasionally.
Okay.
But for the most part, I'm retired. I retired at 35. I'm 42 now.
Wow.
Yeah,
find that.
I asked you guys earlier about kids, and unfortunately, it's not going to work out well for you guys. So,
Okay, so stepping aside about the kids for a second. So, what I want to know is who's receiving what goes on the wall, what's left over, and I ask that because the irony of the country we live in is all this excess produce that we have often goes to waste or doesn't even get picked or gets buried, and
we have hungry people.
And we have hungry people.
Right.
But you're finding hungry mouths to feed. So how do you find those people, and who's receiving that excess produce?
So good question. I'm going to make 2 points about that. One, we do serve the people that we donate, but we also serve the people that are customers because they're getting $50 to $60 worth of food, worth of produce in their $18 share. The way I see it is it's an all-you-can-eat sort of fresh produce thing. And we're benefiting them because of the amount that they're getting for the cost.
Sure.
Right. Then we're also benefiting the people we donate to. Now, how does that work? When I started this thing 7 years ago, right, I think to I asked that same question: how am I going to find the people who will receive these shares?
Yeah.
And I started asking questions like, "Are you poor? Are you more poor? Are you more poor than you?" And I was like, I don't want to be asking these questions. This is not the business I want to get in.
Yeah.
But there are other people who are already doing this, food pantries, right? So all I did was I tapped into people like Tri-Area Ministries, Bridge the Gap with Kelly Fitzner, the Food Not Bombs group, the Love Wins group. These are people that distribute in real time. The day of when that produce hits their front doors. That gets into the families because it's fresh produce. You can't let it sit on a shelf somewhere like a lot of food pantry missions, right? So we utilize those partners to get it to families locally in Raleigh.
That's awesome, man. And that makes sense, too, because these guys are doing such a good work. And they just basically, you're almost like you're their supplier, essentially. They've already done the distribution model. They have the places that they have the setup for distributing all of the food to those that are in need, and you're the one helping them to connect that. So, by the way, while you were speaking, I sampled some of what you brought today. You made some pico de gallo, a little spicy, and woo, I love it. That's great.
Yeah, it's got a bite to it.
The habanero jelly, is that right?
Habanero strawberry jam.
Strawberry jam, yeah, that was delicious.
That was my jam.
That was Matt's jam.
Nicely done, Matt.
Thank you for bringing those, by the way. That's really fun. I saw on your bio as well, you're ahead of the curve because in 2009, you were the online teacher of the year for the state of North Carolina.
Oh, guys, let's keep this about the Produce Project and not how awesome I am now. Come on.
But in 2009, how many online students were there? Were you competing against one other teacher?
No.
Who was being taught online at that point?
At that time, North Carolina was the second largest online learning state program in the country.
Really?
Florida was the big one, Florida Virtual, and North Carolina was number 2. But it was like a cruise ship beside a rowboat when it come to size.
Yeah.
But we still, we had a lot of students under Brian Setzer and Tracy Weeks at North Carolina Virtual that year, and I was I like to help the other teachers. When I figured out how to do something, I'd throw it on the blog and go, all right, guys, check this out. I just figured this out.
Yeah.
And And
But so you were able to retire at 35.
with my wife and I, we're getting off topic here, guys.
We are. But you're an interesting guy.
Well, I appreciate that,
We'd like
Max.
to know the whole story about.
It's all
about
part
everybody.
of the produce project.
All right. I'll bite. My wife and I were teachers. We were young, and we said to ourselves, all right, we can either continue with teaching, which we love, or we can have kids. We could not. We decided we couldn't give kids what we wanted to give them, what we wanted to provide them on a teacher salary, which is unfortunate. And I will add, please fund education to people in North Carolina.
Amen.
Good God! I mean, right now, and this is along the lines of your podcast. There's a sick out, i.e., a protest going on, and there's kids who aren't getting lunch today because our cafeteria workers aren't coming to work because they're not
that's
being
so
paid.
weird. I received a text from my son's elementary school saying that they will have normal lunch service today, which I didn't know where that was coming from. So thank you for filling that in.
No, that's happening because our state leadership is not funding education the way it should, and it's unfortunate. North Carolina has fallen to the way when it comes to per student spending in education, and we need to do better. And the solution is the long term. The solution is to vote for people who will support education. The short term is to feed the kids.
But just to stay on that topic for a second, I mean, from what I understand, though, it really comes down to the individual community, right? Like what communities and the parents that stress education, because you have an opportunity as a parent to vote for the budget every year if you're in public school, right? Like for your community.
No, the state budget is what determines per student spending. Now, you're referring in your county or your school district in North Carolina is the what's called the supplement. Now, Wake County has one. Most school districts in the state don't have much of a supplement. Like it's not enough to even be called a supplement, but it's just an addition to the state salary. It's the General Assembly in North Carolina that decides the state education budget, and right now, we are right at the bottom of the list when it comes to per student spending.
But like Wake County, for example, is supposed to be, I think, if not the top, one of the top counties for the public school education system in this state.
Well,
now,
it's I think it's the 12th or 13th largest school district in the country.
12th or 13th largest in the country.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
So does that just mean because there's more people here, the taxes, or you're saying that there's a flat rate per child that is allowed to be spending? But that doesn't make sense. Then how do we fund?
Sorry.
No, please correct me because
it's not allowed to be spent. There is a what happens in the first 10 days of school is what's called we get what's called ADM, average daily membership, right? And it counts the number of kids in the school. Then the schools report that, and then they get funding based on how many kids are in the school because our funding model is based on per student spending, right? So that money comes from the state, and then your property taxes in Wake County, which has a high property value right now. If you guys are trying to buy houses, you know that.
Yeah.
And the property value is higher here. So there is a supplement that comes in from Wake County, which is why Wake County is able to pull good teachers from local districts. And then they can't keep good teachers because they're like, yeah, I'd like to make a little bit more by driving into Raleigh or into Wake County instead of working, in Johnson County.
Right.
But it's tough to keep good teachers in nearby districts.
So that's where the correlation is. Your property taxes does provide a supplement per county for extra funding for your public schools.
No, the supplement is a teacher pay supplement. I'm sorry.
Teacher pay supplement.
That is correct.
But in essence, well, that's what we want. We want better teachers to better educate our children.
That is correct.
Yeah.
The thing that's the unpopular opinion in the room, and I'll go back to actually giving my wife credit now at this late stage, 47 minutes into the podcast.
She's already shut it off. Pretty much when you
She'll
talk
never
about
hear
her.
this part when I actually compliment her. But every morning, my wife makes our kids lunch.
Yeah.
And it's money that we spent on the food that we purchased. And, and I'm going to say, maybe I sound like an asshole when I say this, but our kids do go to a private school. They could eat lunch that's also part of the program there, but we elect to buy our own food and feed our children what we deem necessary and healthy for a healthy lunch. And we don't spend a lot of money on this. And we are pretty smart about how we spend money on food and what we do there. So I'm not not coming off as like Daddy Warbucks saying, "Oh, this is how we do it." No, anybody could buy some rice, some beans, some tortillas, some inexpensive food from a CSA or a produce project or wherever. You could get this stuff and then spend a little bit of time in the morning and make the lunches for your children. But I do feel like this is where I have issue with the general student body's families rely on the school to feed their kids. And I don't know why that's considered part of the responsibility of education. I think there should be a little bit of home family responsibility of feeding your own damn kids.
I'm going to take you to task on that. I think there's a lot of parents that
I'll go second.
Physically can't. Like they're running out to make ends meet on a job, or they don't have literally the means to make their child something that they want to eat.
But I challenge that all the time because you
not me.
No. I
time,
challenge that there's not enough money or time because the food and the supplements, the programs that are created like Mike's company provide vegetables and fruit and food and sustenance, and there are so many community services that provide this. And guess what? They're not always being utilized.
No.
And so it's not like the food isn't there. The food's there.
Yeah.
But it's the initiative by the parent if they want to do this. Maybe you don't have time in the morning to do it, but don't you have time at night in between watching the football game and drinking a beer? Like,
All
don't
right,
you have time?
I gotta stop you there, man.
You're assuming that they have the time to have a beer, watch a football game,
or
not
electricity,
working overtime, or
electricity, or safe place with a kitchen. The food insecure homes. There are families and kids that'll break your heart that get breakfast and lunch every day at school, and those are their only meals.
They depend on that. Yeah.
When I say feed the kids, it's they're not coming from worlds where.
But what's the family like, and what's the environment like at the house? Like, if the food is available. So I'm just saying,
assuming there's a house.
We don't put enough emphasis on the what it means to be a parent sometimes, and it's just like, hey man, do something and feed your children.
What I think Mike's saying is, so you can get the produce. Let's say the food's available. You can't just give your kid a rambutan. You need to wash that rambutan. You need to prep the cherry peppers or whatever. Like, you need time and utensils to do that. And a lot of these insecure homes, they don't have that. And also the parents. And if you're being responsible, you're probably working 2, maybe 3 times jobs late at night because those are the shifts you can get, or those are the shifts that pay money, and you don't have the time to do that. So you're relying on the school system to help feed your children.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong. There are those parents out there that have the means and the time, and they're not doing it for sure.
Huge section,
but I don't think that's what
school's
Mike
going to pay for my kids, and that's that. I mean, and I think that the best schools, the best environments, and as a teacher, I don't know if you could speak to this, Mike, at all, but the ones where the student body's families help and interact are the ones where the schools tend to be the most fortuitous. Like, when you actually have parents and teachers working together on the child's education, then the children get more out of it.
Sure. I think that we all would ideally like to have situations where the school and the parents are aligned and working together for the benefit of the student. Without a doubt. I think that the difference is you're speaking in terms of ideally, and I'm speaking in terms of pragmatic and reality. I can't control.
I know it's controversial what I'm saying,
but yeah, no,
it sucks to hear that.
I want to respond and say that you might not have a realistic picture of how many kids we're talking about who get what we call free and reduced lunch, which
you're talking to one that had it as a kid.
Right. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, good.
That's why I say it. I was in a very poor family, in a very poor neighborhood, but my mom still made me food. She took the time. Right. And she had to get up at 4 a.m. to get to her job. Right. And did other things. So, like, I'm not coming from a guy that's like the rich kid with this perspective of not understanding poverty.
Well, I'm glad you said that because...
But why would it even matter? Why would it even matter if my history had anything to do with what other people's families are like? It shouldn't matter. It should be everybody, regardless of what their previous experience has, should understand that there are certain basics that everyone should provide for their children, whether they knew it from before or not.
Well, I think
Sorry, that gets me heated on this type of topic.
It's a good topic, but well, Mike, while you collect your thoughts, I'll just say that this is also why we pay taxes for our public school system, because they're helping not only provide care for our children and education, but nourishment is part of that. Your kids have to eat during the day, and it's not always possible for a single parent, to get up at 4 a.m, especially if they have multiple kids, to do that. Your mom had one child at the time. Your brother was already out of the house, and so she had one, and maybe it's easier. But
no, we were both in the same house at the same time. But yeah. But yeah, and she was a single woman, and yes. But my mom's awesome, and she should be praised. But also, she did it. Like if we're just saying that she's the anomaly and she's awesome, that's the problem. It's like you should be like, no. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. Like, this is the part of the life that is being a parent. That's why I take that stuff very serious. It's like we, regardless of economics, it's like, hey man, it's not expensive to get rice, beans, tortillas, Wonder Bread, and put some PBJs together and whatever, and just give the kids some nourishment.
So are you saying that you don't believe that the public school system should feed our children?
I think that it should be a catch-all on the very most extreme basis. And then also schools, as my school did when I was younger too, they required additional funding from the parents to provide the extra hot lunch. You had to pay like $1.50 or whatever it was, and you put that money towards the food program. So again, that's the parent supporting that system rather than just saying, hey, schools, it's on you.
So meaning the parents with the means and ability and finances to support that. Yeah.
Are you familiar with the neighborhood schools argument in Wake County from a few years ago?
I don't think so.
So I think it exemplifies your position versus the ed thinking, and I think it's a good quick narrative, right?
Okay.
The idea is that people wanted this quintessential walk to school neighborhood schools, right? In Wake County's parents were complaining because there was too much busing, right? My kids are being shipped across the district, and it's a 30-minute bus drive or 45-minute bus drive, and it's a long way.
Yeah.
I want kids, I want my kids to go to schools with kids who look like them, who are from their neighborhood, right? The superintendent at the time.
Can't imagine why that would be controversial.
Yeah, no kidding, right? But Del Burns was the superintendent at the time, and I heard parents that were friends of mine saying the same thing. That for their kid, they didn't want their kid going to a school with gang members from Southeast Raleigh who were dangerous, and their kids, they shouldn't have to put up with that, in their school and in their neighborhood. And I thought, that's your job as a parent to look out for your kid. Absolutely, right? However, it was Del Burns' job to look out for all the kids. So it was his job to keep an eye out for the kid who doesn't have a kitchen, who doesn't have the light bill paid, who doesn't have who can't get to school because he had to go stay with his aunt in another town, and now there's no way for him to get to school because his family got evicted, and now his mom's staying in a shelter. These things happen every day in Wake County. Wake County's got a lot of people in it, and it was Del Burns' job to worry about all those kids, right? And it's the school industry's job to worry about all those kids and deal with the practical reality of what those kids, have in their lives. So the reality is that without free and reduced lunch for breakfast and lunch, those kids would not eat. And, the right thing to do as a principal, I have a master's in school administration from state. I was a certified principal. I never did the job. Those people are crazy. It's a hard job. But the fact is, you learn that there is one lens that you make every decision through, and that is what's best for kids. The practical reality is those kids are hungry. They can't learn when they're hungry. So we make sure that they get fed because they're kids. Right, and the practical reality is that your job as a superintendent is to look out for all kids. And Del Burns, when the school board in Wake County went and crushed his busing, which the purpose of that busing was to spread kids from low-income neighborhoods out in order to make sure that teaching was equitable across the district. That was the purpose of it. And it was effective, and they crushed that. The school board did, and he said, in good conscience, I cannot continue on this path, and he left. This was a guy who had been in Wake County for over 30, I think it was something like 38 years,
right?
And he was a legend, and he got. And because that was his lens, what is best for all kids?
And I don't disagree with that at all. So my point is, and I'd hope you would meet me halfway on this one, is if more parents that have the means didn't rely necessarily on schools to feed their kids every single day, but actually provided them with their own food, then it would free up more funding for the kids that do not have these opportunities, so that we could have a larger net to catch those that can't help themselves. But what we're talking about is, you're saying there's not enough funding per student or even for the teachers and all these things to supplement everybody. And what I'm saying is, not everybody needs this help, and they're just getting this help. And so if we could do more, if the parents could do more for their own kids that could help, then it would provide more for those that can't.
Yeah, but then I
think there's two misunderstandings here. One, you're not using your funding for school lunch, except in the case of free and reduced lunch, and that comes from federal funding. Two, again, I agree with the message to parents, right? But in the industry of education is what we have to deal with, the kids that get to us. I would agree with sending the message to parents. Please, by all means, give your kids healthy food.
That would be a healthy way to start things.
And I would also say that what we're giving them in the cafeteria is not great either. Right? Like we could definitely improve there.
But if less people were using the food in the cafeteria, except for those that actually needed it, then the product of the food that's in that cafeteria could be better, and it could actually be a more healthy, nutritious food product in the end. That's all I'm saying. Is like everyone helps a little bit for their own family.
No, I get what you're saying, but you're also then creating another problem of a social class system within the schools, and that might already exist.
That already exists. So what are you going to do?
But that kid that's coming from that unfortunate broken home or with lack of income already is not. So he or she is feeling like they're taking charity, when we've already discussed with other produce projects like Hungry Harvest and stuff like that. Like, you want to feel like.
But that's where I also say, if the parents, if the schools are not involved necessarily in this program as much, and the parents could actually get the food from these produce companies, these 501c3 nonprofits at home, and then make the lunches there, then you're not in public talking about, I need free food. You're getting it at home. So it's just about the effort and where you get it. I mean, come on. There's the main problem is that there's not enough messaging about telling parents to be a little bit more cognizant of what you could do.
Now you just definitely hit on a strong point there, and that's something I would love to spend time on. When we talk about families that are living in food insecure homes, we are facing three issues. One is cost of fresh produce. Right, Produce Project to solve that. So check. Right. Two is access, location. In a family that doesn't have transportation, right? They're getting assistance. They're going to use EBT dollars at corner grocery stores where things are incredibly expensive compared to the grocery store. Yeah. And
not nutritious foods.
And not nutritious, correct, which leads to health problems and health costs and other things. Being poor is expensive, right? The issue with access is another one. And I'm working on the city of Raleigh right now. I don't know if I should let this cat out of the bag yet, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. We're working on partnering.
No one's listening at this
point. Right. We're working on with the city of Raleigh to use Chavis Park as a second produce project location. So we'll have the north side and the south side. So we're attempting to fix the issue of access. Now, what you just said is the third and largest problem, and that is decisions. Right. Why do I want to get a box of fresh produce, a share of fresh produce for the produce project, or buy healthy fresh produce instead of this can of Pringles? Right, that's the messaging that's important. Right. And
it becomes too simple to order the junk food, the cheap food, the stuff that's not good for your children's health going forward. But then also, as we tie it up, because we're almost out of this, but from the very beginning, as we're talking about, kiddingly, the judgmental eyes over the shoulder as the person's looking through their box, and you're taking what you need and what you can. Eat what you want, take what you want, but eat what you take. If the person that pays $18 a month, or a week, pardon me, for their share, and then they don't take all of it and they leave a good amount for somebody else to eat. They want to know that somebody else that can't afford it is actually going to use that food and make some lunch and some dinner and some breakfast for their children. And like, hey, we all got to work together. So if somebody else is going to pay for food and leave extra food for it to be used, then we want to know that food's going to get used. And all I'm saying is it's messaging directly to individuals. It's not about funding and school programs and all the other programs. It's about, hey, parents, if you want to get the food, it's available. If you want to provide for your kids, you could. These things are available, so utilize the things that are there for you, whether it's making the lunches in school or for your kids before they go to school or providing it at the funded school programs there. It's there, but you also have to put effort in. And I don't feel like that message gets put out enough to where it's not the government's responsibility as much as it is the family unit's responsibility. That's my piece on that.
Well, I think there are a lot of families who benefit from the fresh produce that we provide, and I think they're grateful to have it.
Yeah.
I think they're really happy when they see their kids eating healthy. For a young friend of mine named Ty, he's got 2 kids now. I remember when he was a 14-year-old kid mowing the yard, and now he's got 2 kids. And he came and he got a share of produce, and I was like, "Hey, man, this is awesome. I'm proud of you." And he goes home and he goes, "Dude, it felt so good to watch my kids eating this food that I made." He made confetti mashed potatoes, and he takes pictures of it, and he writes down exactly what he did to share on the produce project so other people will know how to make some of the food that he made, right? Because he's so jazzed about working with somebody like me that he's known for a long time and feeding his kids healthy, and he wants other people, to have the same experience. So, so it's happening. It's happening, and if all I've done is change that family's life, then it's enough, man. It felt good.
Yeah, I think I have a solution for us all to make you feel good about what you're saying and to make your take the produce project to the next level.
I would love that.
Okay, so we're saying that sometimes it's hard what to do with this produce, right? You need more volunteers. You need another wing of your produce project. Well, let's get all these chefs that speed to come and produce cooked meals or cooked dishes with the excess produce that you could actually give to these families that might also educate them on how to make these things or what is possible to do with this excess produce.
That's awesome because one of our donation partners, Food Not Bombs, actually does that. And they're the only one that I know of that prepares the food and then hands it out to people experiencing homelessness in Raleigh.
Yeah.
And that's important because if you're living in a camp, you know what that is, right? If you're living in a camp, you don't have a kitchen, right? So handing them, prepared food it makes a huge difference. And
it sounds like we need to take some of this produce and make it into prepared food.
I hear you.
That'd be dope.
That would definitely help out.
That'd be dope. And we have
when
plenty.
Felicia's doing her volunteer hours, she's good at cooking.
We'll have her chopping carrots.
Yeah, have her chop carrots and cook some stuff.
No, I appreciate it. And believe me, what you are doing is what the community needs more of. So I just want everybody to utilize what you're doing.
Me too.
Both
Me
for
too.
spending the money on for yourself and then also receiving the products and utilizing the products when you get them. So you're doing I'm not a religious person, I'll say doing the Lord's work, but you're doing what is necessary for the community, and I appreciate it. So all I'm saying is let's utilize this company and this services to its fullest potential. And that's it.
Well, I got to echo that, man. The more people who buy shares of produce, the more we donate, and it's as simple as that. So when I push to sell more produce, it's not about selling more produce. I don't care about a profit margin because my metric is the pounds of produce that we donate on that donation wall. All I know is the more produce we sell, the more shares we sell, the more produce gets on the donation wall, and that's my goal. And that's why I'm here today. Is I hope that more people hear about us and come out and give us a shot.
Yeah. And so to get a share or to help you out, you just go to produceproject.com.
.org. Produceproject.org.
Produceproject.org. Grab a share. You can read all about it. It's a very simple blurb, a very user-friendly website. Check it out and help help everybody while you do that. And then somebody that pays the bills here, it's not exactly, it's more of a luxury item, but once you've volunteered at the Produce Project and you're feeling good about your day and you've made your kids lunch, as Max would mandate, grab yourself a scoop of Proof alcohol ice cream, because they have figured out a way to put the dessert and the alcohol into one in this beautiful dish of ice cream, and they've got beautiful flavors like bourbon caramel and moonshine cheesecake and
Coconut
rum, and it's a treat. But so after you've done your good work and deeds for the day, grab some Proof alcohol ice cream.
And where can you get them?
You can get it at Triangle Wine Company.
Doing some good makes it taste better.
It does.
So having people come and volunteer with us is a great way to earn that dessert. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So volunteer with Produce Project. Like Max said, you can get it at Triangle Wine Company. You can get all your beverage needs, really, for wine, vermouth, and beer at one of their 4 locations in Southern Pines, Holly Springs, Cary, or in the New Bedford area of Raleigh. Don't forget to use the NCFB promo code for a discount. And look for the red box for the Proof alcohol ice cream. And until then, go to the Produce Project, grab yourself a share. You will eat very merrily.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes, and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.